Aloha, dear friend. The video you're about to watch is a recording out of my Awaken to the Sacred Body program. So it's one of the lessons that the participants of this program have access to, and I decided to share it with you here. So enjoy. Aloha, Sacred One. Welcome to this video. Today, I want to talk about the concept of the four bodies and give you a little bit of a broader perspective on how the type of healing that you are learning in this program actually works. Because all of the modalities, all of the techniques that you are being taught, that you are learning, they do have a linking to this foundational piece of wisdom. You might have heard me speak about this already. I oftentimes mention this concept or I teach on this concept, the concept of the four bodies. Most of us believe we come to planet Earth and we are equipped with one body, right? I am this body. I am this identity. What we're speaking of here is the physical body that is clearly visible and you experience the world around it through the physical body, which means through the five primary senses: tasting, smelling, seeing, touching, feeling, and hearing. Now, that is actually a very limited way to perceive life and to perceive your own being, because there are three more bodies that you're going to explore more and more, or you may already have, however far you are in the program as you're watching this. The physical body is very bound to planet Earth. It has very simple earthly cravings. It needs food, it needs water, it needs sunshine. So it's very bound, and the heaviest body, let's say if you have a physical injury, right? You break something, that's a really heavy experience, and the recovery process takes quite long. Of course, you can engage with other healing modalities to support the healing process of a broken bone, for example. You can use energy healing on that. You can choose gentle massage healing, like really gentle if it's very painful, to kind of like increase the blood flow. So there's ways to support the physical body in healing. However, it's the slowest one. And more interestingly, it's also the last one that experiences weight, injury, and illness. The second body is the mental body. Your mental body is the body that lives through the world of thought, the world of thinking. Everything that you think in your mind calibrates your mental body. Now, let's do a little experiment here. If you close down your eyes for a moment, you take a couple of breaths in your own pace. And you're going to take yourself, the version of you that you believe you are at this very moment, and you're placing yourself in an infinite space, in a sort of universal room. Just imagine that, place yourself there, and then you imagine your mind, your head, with all the thoughts that you're thinking as a separate entity, and place it in front of you. Just place the mind in front of you. And now you're going to think and imagine all the thoughts that the mind is having and processing as little tiny airplanes or little tiny bubbles around your mind. And you're going to notice that if your mind is very loud and very active and actually overwhelmed and stressed, there's going to be 1,000 of little bubbles moving, maybe even in a fast pace. If you've already been advancing on a mindfulness journey, you might be able to slow down some of these bubbles, to maybe remove them from the mind, to let them go. So there's maybe less noise, less motion, less stress on the mind, on the mental body. Now, the interesting part here, if you want, you can open your eyes again, is realizing that those are two different bodies. They are linked together, they affect each other, but they are two separate entities that you are equipped with as you come to Earth this lifetime. Parallel to those two, you can imagine that same space again. You have the mental body that is either anxious, noisy, surrounded by all of these bugs and airplanes, or maybe rather calm and just has a couple of thoughts that are swirling around. Next to that mental body, you imagine another body, the emotional body. The emotional body is the body of feelings. You can imagine that as a copy of your body, however, with a translucent skin and a sort of watery content. Now, whenever your emotional body is stressed, overwhelmed, there is fear, there is desire, there is lust, there is anxiety maybe, there is guilt or shame or apathy, maybe there is anger. That usually is when the water flow inside of that body starts flowing either too fast and too wild, or there is a block. There's like a dam blocking a part of that body. The emotional body is meant to be in flow. In other words, emotion stands for energy in motion. So that watery energy that you're now imagining inside of your replica of your body, as you see through the skin and you see that water move through your body, that energy move through your body. If there is emotions that aren't being met, felt, received, and processed properly, there is either an overflow, a flood, that then overflows into the outside world. Let's say anger, you're projecting anger towards other people. Or there becomes a dam, there's a stagnancy where the energy doesn't move, where the water doesn't flow properly through your emotional body. Now again, that body is also linked to your physical body and your mental body. For example, if you think one thought, that can create an emotion in the emotional body. And eventually that emotion can create a ripple effect in your physical body. You're not moving your body as you're asked to by your emotional body in order to process and flow with life. And there you start manifesting and creating stagnancy in your physical body, which then can show up as an illness. It can show up as a disability. It can show up as stiffness in the joints or muscles. All of these physical manifestations. It can even start showing up as the growth and increase of cancer cells or other viruses in the body. Now we're having those three bodies that, as you will notice, and you might already be noticing now, in all of my teachings, we are moving through releasing stagnancy and open the energy flow in all of them with different tools, different perspectives, different approaches. However, there's one body that is only talked about in spiritual practices. And very often we neglect spiritual practices because we marry ourselves to an identity that says, I'm not spiritual. So put that aside. We're missing out on a huge, huge possibility there. Because the fourth body, the so-called energetic / etheric or spirit body, spiritual body, is the most important one to take care of. Because the emotional body, the mental body, and the physical body, they are rather small compared to the spirit body. The spirit body is the expanded version of yourself. It's the body that has more than 5 senses. It's the body that can see, sense, or feel truth versus falsehood. It can see, sense, or feel certain chains of happenings in the future and then allow you to engage towards them or change slight things in your life, slight decisions on a physical note or on an emotional note, so that that chain of happenings doesn't happen. So your spirit body, your etheric body, your energy body is the most powerful one. It's also the wisest one. It's the most healing one. And the only way that you can access that is by using certain formulas, certain teachings, certain gateways and practices that you're learning in this program. So if you hear me talk from manifesting from the ether, from the infinite from the all that is, if you hear me talk from your relationship to God, Spirit, the universe, the ascended masters, then I'm talking about your relationship to your deepest, most inner beloved, the core center of you, the soul. Your soul is infinite. Your soul is all loving, all being, and it's invincible. And your soul has a voice. It can be heard. It can be felt. It can be sensed what the soul is guiding you to do. In other words, what your energy body is calibrated to in order to achieve the highest possible outcome of love, peace, grace, and happiness and enlightenment eventually. Your energy body, your soul, knows that path. And what we're doing here is we're calibrating all of the other bodies, the emotional body, mental body, and the physical body, to the blueprint of the soul. We're learning to calibrate all of your bodies to the blueprint of your energy body. And your energy body, your soul, is the purest reflection of the divine, of God, Spirit, of the first form of all creation. It's a reflection of that. Everything else is Maya in yoga, called Maya, in other words, illusion, or Matrix. If you watch the movie, that's a very helpful movie to understand this concept. The physical body, emotional body, and mental body, they are temporary. They are an illusion. Doesn't mean they don't exist. However, they are just one very limited layer of what you are. A very limited perspective of what you are. And this brings me to the topic of the difference between identifying the soul body and the ego body. The ego body is your identity. The identity you have gotten married to and used to in this lifetime, with the habits, the attachments, the addictions, and the behaviors that you believe make you you. And it's a tricky one because your ego tricks you into the belief that you are the individual, that that is important, that holding on to this layer of protection of an identity is important. That's the spell the ego casts into your consciousness. And when it casts that into your consciousness, what does it do? It separates you further and further from your energy body, from your soul body, from your etheric body. It numbs you away from that. And as you saw in the map of consciousness teachings, if you already have done that, the domain of the ego is the lower states of consciousness, and the domain of the soul is the higher states of consciousness. Lower states being apathy, shame, guilt, fear, anger, desire, and pride. All things that are predominantly focusing on the I-ness. You might recognize the thought or the words, I feel, or even more often, more common, I am. I am angry. I am an angry person. You made an identity around a lower state of consciousness. You created an attachment unconsciously most of the time that you are that. And with that, you limit yourself to a state of being, to a thought pattern that comes with an emotional landscape. Angry, frustration is most dominant. Huh? Frustration, anger, being pissed off. That's the emotional landscape you're getting married to by making this your identity. Same with shame or guilt. And you're saying, I'm not a people person and I'm shy. I am shy. You marry yourself to an identity of a shy being, of a shy, false identification of the self. Again, limiting yourself to a thought world that comes with an emotional landscape that then affects the physical body. You're not showing up in certain places where the soul might want you to show up. You're not talking to certain people that create openings and linkings in your world to come closer home to the soul because you married the identity of I'm a shy person, for example. Now, there's many more identities that you can get married to. And if you use the map of consciousness, you can actually self-track. You can have a look at which identity did I get married to here? Which identity did I assign myself to? What do I believe I am? And whenever you track that, you can use multiple of the formulas that you're learning in this program to let go of that, to let go of that identity. And the moment you let go of that identity, the moment you realize that it's less important who you think you are, and it's more important to nourish the relationship to your energy body, to your soul, and eventually to God, Spirit, the universe. That's where the higher states of consciousness start activating themselves automatically. You come into acceptance, into neutrality. You come into peace, love. You come into reason. You come into bliss and courage. And you come closer to a state of enlightenment. So we're doing, and the approach that we're using in this program is we're working predominantly on the energy body so that the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body calibrate themselves to the divine essence of your soul. Pure light, a reflection of God, the first form of all creation. That's the approach that we're using here. And it's a very different approach from possibly many of the coaching programs or courses or retreats that you've been in. However, it's a much more effective process. Trust me on that. You will see it's much more effective. Mental body, emotional body, physical body, spirit energy, etheric body, the soul. And the other ones, oftentimes bound to the ego. We're going to lean more into that in further classes and in our group sessions, and I'm very excited for you. It's a big journey ahead. And I look forward to see you in another class here. So much love to you. Infinite oceans of love. Sat Nam. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. And if you liked this class, if you liked this lesson and you would love to receive more of these teachings, the Awaken to the Sacred Body program awaits you. I'll leave you with the link to all the details down in the description or the comments. Go and have a look, have a read, and I await you in there if it is your time to join.